Hey everybody, today I am planning a tea party for my mom for Mother's Day, and I'm just showing you some of the ingredients of the things that I'm going to prepare for the tea party. Ahead of time, I just put everything out on the stove, and I'm starting out by making some lemon and blueberry scones. That is usually a typical tea party dessert, and I thought about doing something else because I did want to have some sandwiches, and scones are kind of bready, kind of like biscuit type. But at the end, I did go back and decide I was going to do the scones after all. Now, on here, I am showing me making those, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it because I'm not really doing a cooking video. Being that I'm combining so many things into one video, I'm just going to briefly show you me preparing the food, and I will put all of the recipes, either the links or the actual recipe, down below so that you can have those to use. But I do want to make a note about the recipes that or any kind of recipes that you're going to make for anything. Always plan ahead and read, especially new recipes, read them ahead of time, because sometimes it takes a little preparation in doing these. For instance, with the scones, I had to freeze a stick of butter because when you make those, you do have to have frozen butter. And if I did not look at the recipe prior to me getting ready to make them, it would have delayed me getting those done. Because I would have had to take the time to make sure that those were frozen. So just always, maybe the night before is probably best to read over your recipes just to make sure that there's nothing that you need to do ahead of time. And in addition, I'm making some chicken salad and also a cucumber sandwiches, which I use with cream cheese and Italian dressing. And with those, I personally think that that would be better made the day before because it would give all of the flavors time to marinate in the refrigerator. But I did not plan ahead because I'm the world's worst for doing that, even though I'm telling y'all to. And so therefore, I pretty much served them, shortly after making them. But anyway, as you can see, I did just pour the butter into the mixing bowl, and I used a food processor to cut up my frozen butter. And if you've got that, it just makes it a little bit easier on your hands. I still had to mash it with my pastry blender, but overall I didn't have to do as much work by using my blender. So if you have one, definitely put it to use. I'm just incorporating the blueberries in this mixture, and once I get that done, I'm going to put it onto a floured surface and just make a ball, just form a ball. You don't want to handle your dough too much just because, the frozen butter is what makes your dough flaky when it's baking. So, just as little as possible. You don't want to put that body heat on there and start melting the butter. So after I got it formed into a ball, I just took my rolling pin again to keep my hands off the mixture as much as possible. You could pat it out, but like I said, you would take a chance of melting your butter a little bit by doing that. So I patted it out some just to get it started, but then I took my rolling pin and I just spread that out until like an 8-inch round disc, probably about an inch thick, maybe not quite so much, and just shaped the edges a little bit. And then I just took my pizza cutter and I cut my dough into 8 slices, 8 triangle slices, like if you were cutting a pie or a pizza or whatever. It just made it easier to do it that way, and it cut right through. And then I just took those after I finished cutting them and put them on my baking sheet, and I did line that with some parchment paper. It just makes cleanup so much easier, and the blueberries will run, or the juices from the blueberries will run, and having that parchment paper down just helps to keep it from being stuck to your pan. Once I got those put on, I just put those in the oven. As I'm talking here, I can't really remember what I baked them on or for how long, but like I said again, I will put the recipe in the comments below. So now I'm just going to show you a close-up of what they look like before I put them in the oven to bake. The glaze for the blueberry scones is basically just powdered sugar, lemon juice, lemon zest, and milk. I did not follow the icing recipe that I'm going to put, that it actually comes with the recipe for the blueberry scones, and the reason being is because I make a lemon pound cake, and I love the glaze on the lemon pound cake. It's not too much different, but I did use the recipe for my lemon pound cake, and I will put those variations down below in case you want to use that instead. Not sure how it would taste, if the other one wouldn't be as good. I don't know. I just know that I like my other glaze better. And I did use the heavy whipping cream instead of milk. So, however you want to do that. But when you glaze your scones, you do want to make sure that they are completely cooled, because if you glaze hot pastries, it's just going to make your glaze run right off of your pastry onto, the surrounding area. I didn't really concern myself about being too neat with it. I just basically wanted to drizzle it over it. Once you get it on there, it will run a little bit, so it'll have that nice little drizzled effect. And you just want to coat all of them generously, because that is basically, the glaze to me had more of the lemon flavor in it than the actual scones. So the glaze just kind of like brings all those flavors together, and they were so delicious. And as a note, something that I did not do, when I stored our leftover scones, I put them in an airtight container. Do not do that with scones, because what happens is when you store them in an airtight container, it makes them soft and moist, and it takes away the flakiness of the scones. You can still eat them. They're still delicious, but the texture is completely different. So what I would say is, if you have any scones left over, I would lightly wrap them up in some wax paper and put them in a brown paper bag. Now I'm going to show you me making the chicken salad. This is my recipe. Nothing major. I'm using canned chicken here, canned chicken breast. I have used rotisserie chicken. You can, use any leftover chicken you've got, however you want to do it. I like the canned chicken breast because when I mash it with my fork, it just has those nice little shreds. And I just like the tenderness of it and everything. It's just easy to use. So I salt and pepper that. I add garlic. Right here I'm actually adding garlic pieces because I needed some garlic to use for another recipe. Normally I put garlic powder in my chicken salad. I just feel like it flavors it a little bit better. And then I will add the sweet pickle relish. And I have made this with regular dill relish, so you can leave it out altogether if that's not your thing. I'm just putting a little bit of onion in here. Of course, all this onion's not going in there. I had another recipe that I was using that onion for. I do prefer to use shallots in my chicken salad, but I will use whatever onion I have on hand. And of course, last but not least, mayonnaise. And what I had decided to do with the chicken salad was I had bought these little phyllo cups, mini phyllo cups, and I decided to fill those up because I was already going to make the cucumber sandwiches and some other type of sandwiches, and I just didn't want to have all that bread. So I just thought it would be nice. And you could also serve chicken salad with crackers as well. But I just took my chicken salad and I just, put, a little bit in each one of those little phyllo cups, and those were actually very delicious. That was a great idea. So, you could buy those cups already. I think they're in the frozen section, and they don't take long to thaw out. You just sit them out for a few, 10 or 15 minutes, and they're fine. But you can buy those already pre-done. Or you can make them yourself if you have like a little mini tart pan, which I do. I just find that process to be very complicated and tedious. It just depends on what you're making. For something like this, it's just easier to buy it. Now I'm going to do the cucumber sandwiches, and I just took some softened cream cheese, and I'm going to mix a little bit of mayonnaise with that, and then I'm going to put a whole pack of Italian dry dressing mix in that and stir that around real good. Like I said, with these type things, I think it's better if you make it ahead of time so that all your flavors can marinate. And I did put a little bit of extra garlic in this, but you don't have to do that. It's up to you. So once you get that mixed up and everything, then I just had sliced up my cucumbers. I like slicing my cucumbers really thin. To be honest, I really do not like cucumbers. It's very strange, but the only thing I will eat cucumbers on is these little cucumber tea sandwiches mixed with this particular spread. I had it at a tea house one time and absolutely loved it. I think the thing that I don't like about the cucumbers isn't so much the flavor as it is the seeds and stuff in it. And I didn't take the seeds out of these, but I did try and cut them extremely thin. And so I layered them on there. That way I had more of the flavor and less of the crunch and the seeds on the sandwiches. But I just spread both sides with it, layered up the cucumbers, and then I cut the edges off the sandwiches. Now, my mother and all the adults, we could care less if we have edges on ours. I took it off mainly because as far as presentation-wise, I do think it looks a little bit cuter when you're stacking these up on a plate for a tea party. And I did make some other sandwiches. It was a new recipe that I had tried, and after I did it, wasn't really a big fan of it. And for the sake of the length of this video, I just decided not to include showing me make those. I will still put the link to the recipe down below in case you want to try them. I just didn't think it had as much flavor as I thought it would. I think it looked better than it actually tasted. And again, it could be that at this point I was really rushing because I was late. And I was just kind of like tossing the ingredients into a bowl and not really, I guess I'm going to say really wasn't measuring things like I should have. So anyway, I will post that below, but this is my tablescape after I set everything up. I got the little 3-tier plate holder to put my items on, and I did do the fruit. Of course, I didn't show me cutting that up because that's just, you just wash them up, cut them. But put my sandwiches on top. There is my blueberry scones. I love these things. They are so super delicious. I got those plates at the Dollar Tree actually a couple years ago, and I bought them for the purpose of a tea party, and we just had not used them. So I was able to use those today, and my mother came over. My father did come as well, and I'm not going to leave Dad out, so he was able to come and enjoy him with a tea party too, and everything just, turned out good. I think my mother really enjoyed it. And she didn't care for the sandwiches that I didn't show you. So if that tells you anything, it's 2 people already that really didn't care for them too much. But, everything turned out well. I just, hate that I rushed like I did. And, planning is key. So the next thing, after we cleaned up and everything, we decided we were going to make a DIY project. And this video is just loaded with all kinds of stuff. But I'm just showing you some of the things that we purchased. I did buy the picture frames at the Dollar Tree, and I bought the sea glass at the Dollar Tree. My mother had a box of shells that she brought from home, and they do sell those at the Dollar Tree if you need them. And then I used a resin. I can't think of the name of it, but it's like an acrylic type hardener. And you'll see how I use that later. But what I'm doing right here is I'm just taking the backs off of all of the picture frames. I'm going to pull those out. I'm taking the glass out, and I'm going to take some Windex or some, glass cleaner, go over that real good, make sure it's nice and clean, got all the fingerprints and stuff off of it. And then when I put it back into the picture frame, I am going to, I put like a little bit of hot glue in each corner just to hold that down because there isn't a back on there because I do not replace the back. I did go ahead and take the little tabs, the little metal tabs that you bend down to hold the back on. I did push them back down. You don't have to have those there if it bothers you. You can always take some pliers and remove those. Just be careful with these Dollar Tree frames. It might crack your frame because they're not the most sturdy frames. I chose to leave mine on because even though you can see it a little bit from the front, it wasn't that noticeable. So anyway, I just put the frame down, made sure it was going to be glued so it wouldn't fall out. And then I turn the frame over and I take the shells and I just lay the shells out first how I wanted them to go. And then after I got the pattern that I wanted my shells to be in, I hot glued those down. Now, hot gluing these shells down is not a step you have to do. And the reason why I say this is because when you pour your resin mixture over your shells, it's going to hold them down. Now, you might want to hot glue shells that you're going to put on the actual frame itself. Or if you decide you don't want to include all of them with the liquid resin, you can hot glue those down. But being this was the first time I did this, I just felt better having them hot glued first. So I hot glued all my shells in the way that I wanted them, and then I took the liquid resin and I mixed those up according to the instructions. I bought that at Hobby Lobby. That's the only thing that I didn't really use that was not from the Dollar Tree. Liquid resin is pretty expensive, even with a 40% off coupon. A 8 ounces of that cost me around $13. I could have gotten by with buying the 4 ounce, but I wasn't sure how much I needed to use, so I ended up buying the 8 ounce. I've got more than enough left over. But basically, it's very important that you follow the instructions when you do this, because if you don't mix this stuff right, it may not harden completely, and you may end up with tacky, sticky resin. So anyway, I mixed this up. You have to mix 2 different bottles together. Once you get that nice and mixed up, then I took it and I started out just pouring it around my shells. And the whole idea of this project is to make it look like that you've got shells on this glass and there's water on it as well. I'm going to insert a picture at the end of some that they have examples on Etsy that they're selling, and they're selling these for a really expensive amount of money. And it's just so simple that you can make this yourself. Now, this is our first try. I'm sure if I did enough of these, I could probably make them look as pretty as the ones on Etsy. But I still was happy with how it turned out. But anyway, when I poured those around, I think on the first frame, and then afterwards I had decided that I was going to take the stick and just drizzle it around the shells off the stick, and it did end up working better on the other ones that I did that way. And what's nice about this is that you don't really have to be perfect. Really, the messier it is, the more it's going to look like water anyway. And right here, I'm just taking a paper towel and wiping it off of the edges of the picture frame. Okay, so here are the final projects that we did with my mother. She did have to leave hers here so that it could dry. And they have been drying for probably a little over 24 hours. But this one with the little starfish is Caitlin's, and I think she's got the winner here. And then this one here was another one that I had did. I bought an extra frame. It's brown. Thinking Madeline might want to do it. She did not. So I went ahead and did it. And then this one is my mother's. And this one is mine. And I will put a picture at the end to show you what it looks like setting up. You can hang these, or you can put them on, prop them up on a little easel. But I had to put them on wax paper because they were the acrylic stuff was running through on the picture frame. And I didn't want it to stick. But I'm trying to show you, you can kind of see like how the acrylic looks. It's supposed to look like water. But I think if you took I had a little popsicle stick. And if you take the popsicle stick and you just kind of drizzle it around, it looks more kind of like, you can see how there's a little water spots right there. Because if you get it too perfect, then, it really won't look like the water. So I went back and actually added those little water drops to that one. Caitlin, let me see hers. I think when I did hers, I had already kind of like tried to do the little water drops. I can't tell as good with this one. Yeah, there you go. And also with this acrylic, you can tint the acrylic with food coloring, I think. It gives you instructions on how to do that. Caitlin had said that it may have looked a little bit better if the water had like a little bit of a blue tint to it. But I was just scared to do that since this was the first time we were working with these. I didn't want to mess it up. But these projects total, I would say, if you have to buy your shells, which we don't because every time we go to the beach, we have collected them. And we have like a massive collection, as you can see. My mother actually brought a box of shells over. But Dollar Tree does sell these shells. We also bought the sea glass. So if you bought a pack of shells and a pack of sea glass and a picture frame, that's $3 right there. And it could, you have shells and sea glass left over. And then, you know, with the acrylic, I didn't use very much of that at all. You could probably actually get by with buying the 4 ounce, which was $12 before the 40% off versus what I purchased. But I would say this overall project was, you know, probably $3 or $4. You know, it's less than $5. That's what we did. I hope y'all enjoyed this DIY, and hope it gives you some decorating ideas for the summer. I'm going to do like a beach nautical type theme in my living room, but I probably won't put that up until June or July.